Hi, I'm Matthew Malcolm with California Dairy Magazine, reporting to you from Fresno, where Elanco Animal Health sponsored the annual California Animal Nutrition Conference. Here, Matthew Waldron explained how dairy producers can better understand issues with immunity and metabolism in cows, and how to avoid these problems around calving time.
Metabolism is not only a critically important part of the cow's response to immune activation, but of course it's also critically important in terms of feeding that transition dairy cow. We think about those 90 days around calving, and the metabolics obviously will jump out at us.
My talk today focused on basically the interplay between metabolism and immune function, and trying to look at that connection between metabolism and immunity. We know that during this 90 days around calving, from the 6 days prepartum out through 30 days postpartum, this time that Elanco is calling the vital 90 days, is a period of high risk for our cows, and that we have increased problems with metabolic health, we have increased problems with infectious disease, and that increase with infectious diseases is due to this period of immune suppression or immune dysfunction that Dr. Curley and Dr. Sodillo talked about. And so there's a linkage between these problems with metabolism and the problems with immunity. And that's what I was trying to get to today. And the bottom line is that metabolic variables, such as high levels of non-esterified fatty acids and high levels of ketones, can have a negative impact on immune function. It's not as simple as that. There are other factors that are involved, because if we just take and put a mid-lactation animal under energy restriction and create negative energy balance and high levels of NEFA and high levels of BHBA, we don't get immune suppression. And so there's something critical during this time phase around the time of calving that makes her special, when it seems that these high levels of NEFA and BHBA do have a negative impact on immune function. So there's still a lot more to learn, but right now, if we can feed these animals to minimize high levels of NEFA and high levels of BHBA, hopefully that's going to at least help, or at least not insult, the immune system. The other part of my talk that I was trying to get at was what happens during immune activation. And typically we think of when an animal has mastitis or metritis or any form of immune activation, some level of inflammation, we think that we know there's increased energy needs. The animal runs a fever. That is going to generate, that generation of heat is going to take more energy, more nutrients. We know that there's increased numbers of immune cells. They have to do their jobs. They take some level of nutrients and energy in order to do that. And so we went through an accounting practice of really looking at, after immune activation, what are the energetic demands on the animal? And what my exercise showed, and it's probably can be argued, but what my exercise showed is that in truth, the amount of extra energy and perhaps nutrients that are needed for the immune response is very small compared to the huge amount of energy that the dairy cow is putting out. Now, if you compare this to maybe a growing animal, then maybe it's a more significant impact on metabolism, but this dairy cow has such a huge amount of energy that's secreted in milk. All she has to do is to knock down milk production, and energetically she still ends up in a good spot. She ends up not going deeper into negative energy balance, and we can suggest that by looking at metabolites. Non-esterified fatty acids don't go up, beta-hydroxybutyrate doesn't go up during this immune response. Glucose concentration stays constant, and glucose production actually increases. All those things are inconsistent with the notion that she has a terrible metabolic insult during immune activation that's robbing nutrients from production. So really what's going on is that the cytokines, the hormones of the immune system, are working at the mammary gland to shut down milk synthesis, and that's actually sparing energy for the animal so that she can mount the appropriate immune response. And so it's a matter of metabolic coordination, not competition for nutrients. And that's what we were trying to get at, is this question of after the immune response, it really is a coordinated physiological response. Before the immune response, this period around calving, metabolism plays a role, and there can be a negative impact of things like non-esterified fatty acids and beta-hydroxybutyrate on immune function.
Learn more about improving the immunity and metabolism of dairy cows by reading California Dairy Magazine. I'm Matthew Malcolm, CaliforniaAgNet.com.